Hi, my name's Sarah and I'm the local food officer at the Surf Coast Shire, and welcome to my garden. Today we're kickstarting a series of weekly live webinars to help those of you that are just getting into gardening, or for those of you that may have a little bit more time on your hands to get out in the garden. We'll be covering a wide range of topics, from everything from what to grow now, how to grow from seed, composting, and everything in between. Today we're going to be looking at how to get started. And I'm very fortunate to have some amazing guests with me to help me present this topic today, Ben Shaw and James McLennan. Both these guys have over 2 decades of experience growing and helping other people get growing in their own backyards. So I hope you enjoy the episode today. So let's dig in.
Thanks, Sarah. Great to be here in your beautiful garden.
What a day to be gardening. We're going to dig in.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do it for the next few weeks. Who knows? This might go for the whole year.
Might we just start with by saying, obviously, with coronavirus and COVID-19 at the moment, things are changing very quickly. In filming this, we are being mindful of social distancing, so we will remain sort of apart at all times. So it might be a bit awkward of us sort of toing and froing, but we're going to do our best to stick by the guidelines while we're filming.
Okay, so I think without any further ado, we'll kickstart the first workshop. What we wanted to get across in today's workshop was, if you're at home and you've got inspired to get out and grow food, the first thing that you've probably thought about doing is finding a spot to actually grow some food. So we're lucky enough to be in Sarah's garden, and clearly it's a beautiful, lovely garden where we've already got some beds set up to garden in. Would you say, James?
Absolutely. And looking at Sarah's garden, we're going to be talking a lot about soil health today and for the next sort of few sessions. And looking at Sarah's, what she's got here already is already fantastic. We're going to run through some tips and tricks, though, which you may not necessarily have this at home, and we're going to cater for those needs as well. So some of the things we're doing today, we can apply to any setting here on the Surf Coast.
Great. So if you don't have this set up at home, I think before you even think about going out and getting a bed like this, or getting sleepers or getting bricks, is first of all, you've got to think about where in your backyard or front yard you're going to place your garden bed. You might have an existing bed, or you might be inspired to rip up the lawn and pop a veggie patch in. But a few things that you need to think about, firstly, your aspect. So whereabouts are you going to get plenty of lovely sun for your veggies to be able to grow like this? The other aspects that influence a vegetable garden are wind. So do you have an area which is more sheltered, especially with fruit trees as well, and veggies? They don't tend to like wind, do they? The other thing to think about, you might be on a big slope. So if you're on a big slope, is that the best spot to actually grow your food? So suddenly there's lots of aspects that we've got to take into place. You might have a next door neighbour that has a 2-story house and shades particular parts of your garden. So you need to think about placement of your garden. Anything you'd like to add there, Jay?
Yeah, so some other sort of key things in looking and getting out and sort of just seeing what's around is certainly water access. Where have you got a tap? Some gardens haven't been, or yards haven't been planned to actually have gardens. They might only have a couple of taps on the whole property. So keeping in mind where taps are for watering your garden is obviously a key thing down the track. And the other thing would be accessibility. So if you've got quite a confined sort of area through to your garden, you can't get a wheelbarrow through, that you can't bring things in. You need to have good accessibility and a way to get some soil, some manure, some hay, some straw, and all the things we're going to look at today as well. So accessibility, but also ease of access from the house as well. You want to make sure that you can access it easily, and it's really easy to get from the kitchen out there, pick some stuff, and get back in the kitchen as well.
Exactly. And one other aspect that you should really take into account is trees. You might have some trees on your property. If you've got a big gum tree, in your property. It might be beautiful and it's bringing in all those beautiful birds, but from a growing perspective, it makes it a bit more problematic. So maybe if you've got another spot that's not going to compete, and might not even be trees, it might be a hedge of pitosterum or different plants, you want to keep that in mind, because if you put stuff underneath those plants, they're going to be competing against each other, and plants want to be separate from that.
Yep.
So it's another important element in the design where we're going to place our veggie garden.
Fantastic. The one other thing, obviously, to give you a bit of concept of where we are today, being watching on your screen, we've basically got a beautiful northern aspect here in this garden. So Sarah's obviously thought about that when she was designing her garden and done a very good job of it.
And don't be confined to planting your veggies in the backyard. I think there's a bit of a revolution happening where
Absolutely.
the front yard, and sorry, Sarah, we're probably going to do a bit of guerrilla gardening over the next couple of weeks, where we're going to look at actually planting out the front, because what a great way to get to know your neighbours, and sharing food. This is a big part of it.
We'll look into the legalities around verge gardening with the Surf Coast Shire.
Of course.
We do. We always want to make sure that we're abiding by council regulations.
Exactly.
All right, let's get started here though in Sarah's backyard. So what are we doing first with this garden bed?
Well, are we going to wait for this rain to just pass over with all the equipment, Sarah? What do you think about that, or should we just dig in?
We're live, mate. We can't wait.
We're going to grow amongst this. I mean, yeah, we're live. Okay.
Yep.
I'm being a bit soft. Sorry. So today we're going to show you one of the best methods for improving your soil, but more importantly, actually getting started. You can do this over the weekend and plant this weekend. You don't have to wait 3 months for this process. You can literally dig in and get planting. So some people call this lasagna gardening, sheet mulching, no-dig gardening. There's lots of different methods, but we're going to explain the way that we've done it for years, and hopefully you guys can apply it in your backyard to really get soil, which you can see, Sarah's soil, really humming along. So yeah, let's get going.
One good thing about this type of gardening is that it is taking from the permaculture principles, and it's using things that are around you, readily available and often free, but also a lot of waste products too. So you'll see that pretty quickly.
Indeed. So what we've done, and what Sarah's done, and James and myself, is we've collected materials both from Sarah's garden, but also from other places. So essentially we're going to, and I think we'll do a lasagna gardening today. So we're going to use that analogy to build this garden bed for you today. And the first layer of a lasagna garden, I don't know about you, James, but when I'm cooking lasagna, it's a beautiful tomato sauce that I've been cooking on the stove for a couple of hours. That's going to be our first layer. In this setting, it's cardboard. So just pretend that that's a beautiful layer of tomato sauce. Now, with this garden bed, there's no weed pressure at all. So we're not worried about weeds. What we're doing here is creating a layer which is going to really get everything under the ground happening. So if you're at home and you are doing this on your lawn, for example, it's a very different scenario where you're trying to stop the grass from growing up through these layers. So you can use, if you've got more weed pressure, cardboard is fantastic, and you layer it quite thickly. So this is an example today. We're not going to do the whole process, but you can use cardboard or you can use paper.
In a situation where you are doing it directly on a lawn as well, you really do need to make sure there's no gaps. And
that's right.
And really, overlap, so there isn't any chance of those weeds getting through. It's a good idea to take off any tape from your cardboard as well. The other thing is, if you're doing it directly on a lawn, chances are that it's going to be maybe a dry start. So you really want to wet your cardboard or your newspaper to start off with.
Oh, and look at that. We're wetting the layers as we speak.
Wetting with the natural elements. Today, obviously, Sarah's soil is quite damp already, and us not doing a very thorough job, it's gonna wet through pretty nicely from the soil, even if it wasn't raining right now.
This is like speed dating, but speed gardening. So this is going to be I reckon we can knock this out in about 10 minutes today or 15 minutes. We would say if you're doing this at home, be a bit more thorough. And if you guys want us to do a thorough session, we can do one later. But for today's purposes, this is what we'll be doing.
Great. So what's next, Ben?
So Sarah has chickens. We won't pan to the chickens. She has beautiful chickens. And look at that. We've just skimmed off the top layer of lovely, beautiful stuff in her garden. Again, this is just activating some fantastic things into your garden bed. So that's a beautiful layer. If you don't have chicken poo at home, it's okay. We've also got other manures which you can use, like sheep manures, for example. The next layer we'll do, I think we'll use a bit of pea straw.
So where can we get good pea straw from here on the Surf Coast?
Good pea straw. Well, you can go for a good drive, and same with manures. Same with just about any materials that you haven't got on your property. Go for a drive, put a sheet in the back of your car so your partner doesn't get angry when you create a huge mess, which can happen. And load up on all these beautiful materials that can go into your garden. So you can go out and get seaweed. You can harvest seaweed legally, which James has done, and we're going to use as a layer. You can get manures. You can even, like what I do at my house, is I put out my green bin, and the man that mows all the lawns around on our street, he fills up my green bin. Like
The reverse.
The reverse. And I'm bringing grass into my garden bed because I put it on a layer like this, or in my compost, or I feed my chooks with it. So speaking of grass, we might as well chuck some.
Perfect.
Now Sarah's mown grass. Now you don't have to worry if it's kikuyu or this is the top of the lawn. We're going to get soaked. This is awesome. So that is not going to create a problem in your garden bed.
So no seeds in this?
No seeds, Sarah?
No, it's actually buffalo.
Oh, it's buffalo grass. There you go.
So I guess back to the green bin analogy, if you think of your green bin is nutrients going off your property. So anything you put in there, whether it's leaves, whether it's grass clippings, whether it's sticks and things, it's all available nutrients that is leaving your property, and you could actually be utilising in your garden. So by doing this, we're putting nutrient upon nutrient upon nutrient, which will end up in your soil and in your food. Okay, so healthy soil, healthy people.
And the other beautiful thing about this style of gardening is it's not backbreaking. You know, we're not, like if you were to try and fill up this garden bed with soil and you brought soil in, you've got to wheelbarrow that soil in. It's hard work. And the other thing is often that soil won't be anywhere near as good as what we're going to create doing this method. How about a bit of seaweed? Look at that. So again, contact your local Shire to find out where you can. James, you might want to talk about where you actually found this beautiful seaweed.
Yeah, so this was actually a massive tide a few nights ago in Anglesey. At road night has come up and just humped up into the entrance of the beach. So this is actually an issue. Collected from there, and look, seaweed is such a valuable resource in your garden. We're doing exactly what we're doing here, making liquid fertilizers, even eating as well in your garden. But it's also a great mulch, particularly for summer, to stop weeds, and also to keep your soil, the water retention in your soil. So it's really, really useful.
And some people might be asking at home, James, what about the salt?
Yeah, lovely. So the salt, in this, what we're doing here, we haven't rinsed this at all. This is fine. The salt in this level will be fine going into the soil. In fact, it's actually putting minerals and elements into the soil, which is needed. Probably enough. Yep. For the plants, if we're going to be doing a liquid fertilizer, which we'll probably be covering in a few weeks' time, yes, we would rinse it, because that's going to be quite an intense amount of salt in there. So, but for now, no bother rinsing. There's even the sand here from the beach as well, so that's fine.
So you can start to see, going back to the lasagna analogy we were using before, James has just put on some pecorino. Marvellous stuff. The idea of the lasagna analogy is that a really good lasagna, all your cheeses, all the sauce, they melt together. and it creates a beautiful thing that all works together. So if we were to put in layers this thick, you don't want to put in a layer this thick of mozzarella because it's not going to actually melt with all the other ingredients. So
I think you're cooking fast as well, did you?
yeah, that's what we'll segue into that in another series, Dave. No, I'm joking. We'll stick to gardening. So again, and if you're at home, you could be watering all these layers, but we haven't got time to do that today, and we're just showing you the actual method. You can break it up. The more you break it up, the quicker it will all melt together.
A lot of our layers are actually quite wet anyway, so the lawn was quite damp. The pea straw has been quite wet, and the seaweed was actually already breaking down a bit too, so it's quite damp too. So we're okay on that front.
What about another green ingredient? Why not? So again, we clipped one of Sarah's beautiful rosemary hedges, and we're going to use that as another layer. So another analogy of food, I mean, let's face it, we're wanting to grow beautiful food. So another analogy I like to use is, you know, a really good chicken soup has a lot of different beautiful ingredients in it. So for these plants, these chilies, these eggplants, if you create a really rich, diverse layers of all sorts of things, when you put your seedlings in, they're going to respond to that. Just like as humans, we respond to a good chicken soup. You feel better when you eat it. No different to plants. We're not any different to plants. We're going to respond better with more ingredients. So we've sourced all sorts of stuff today. Not a lot?
Not a lot.
What have we put in? All right, we're going to see what Sarah eats. Everyone in the Surf Coast Shire is going to find out what is in Sarah's kitchen. All right, we've got lots of scrap. So you've made pumpkin soup. Sarah's, you should see the pumpkins. We'd love to show you. Probably 30 pumpkins sitting over there from this garden bed. Rice. We've got
banana rice, maybe.
We've got eggshells. We've got a range of stuff. We've even got a little bit of citrus. Don't worry if you've got a few onion peels or citrus.
We've got some Easter eggs. No, we don't really. Just be careful though. There are so rubber bands and also stickers as well. So if you've got avocado stickers or kiwi fruit stickers, that's something which often ends up in soil and compost. So just be mindful of those sort of contaminants as well.
And also, have we got time for a very quick story? Yeah, we have. I showed my dad this method a few years ago. He did it out the front on his verge. I think it was allowed, that cancelled. And he rang me the next morning and he was ropeable. 3 dogs had come in and dug his whole patch up. So if you've got things that might come in and want to eat these, Sarah's dog can't get up over here, I don't think. So but just be mindful of that. But we're going to, again, we're not going to leave this as at the top layer. We don't want birds and everything and rats and all sorts of stuff getting in. So we're going to keep layering. All right.
So we've got here some beautiful organic sheep manure. The manure is readily available, often on the side of the roads in bags, but I guess finding manure that is of good quality and making sure that organic is going to be great because there's no chemical residue in it. So yeah, trying to find out good suppliers of these things is a great asset to any gardener. And once you know, spread the word as well and share out where you get the stuff.
Yep. Marvelous stuff. Absolute gold. Don't be afraid to get your hands in. Spread it around. Another lovely layer. Now, I went around Sarah's garden. Again, I was just looking for all sorts of materials. This is some silver beet. Sarah's got plenty of it, so she didn't mind if I put it in as another layer. It's just another layer for the worms to eat, for other organisms below the ground that are going to come up and want to feed off that. Oh, now here's some interesting, we've collected all sorts of stuff.
What is this, Ben?
So, this is a layer that has come from ocean drying, which is a coffee.
We might get a close-up of this.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
So this is the coffee husk.
Husk. These are the coffee husks.
And smells quite molassy or honey.
Smells like honey. It's amazing. I've just picked up poo from sheep. This is probably a bit nicer to play with. But again, I went and grabbed my coffee from there today. I also get coffee grounds. But also, instead of this going to landfill, those guys put bags out and we can use that in our garden. I mean, that'd be fantastic in your compost, even on your paths, maybe.
Yeah, so apparently it's a good weed suppressant. So mixed with sawdust or bark and things on your paths is a great way of suppressing the weeds. And then obviously you can use it in your garden later stage when it starts breaking down too. Beautiful.
What a lovely layer. Awesome. One thing we didn't mention at the start, if you've got a garden bed already and you were gardening and you're thinking about when to take things out, Sarah had a bunch of eggplants and chilies, but she still wants some, but we've taken some out to grow our winter crop now. Actually, here's some coffee grounds. We might as well just show. So coffee grounds. Now we don't want to go too thick, again, with any layer, but coffee grounds are brilliant in your garden as well.
So is this from your coffee drinking then? This supply?
Yeah, I've got a slight problem. No, again, that's, and you know, go see your local cafe and say, listen, I want some coffee grounds for my garden. And that's another thing that's not going into landfill.
Yep.
So,
and often cafes will, usually they pay for this to be removed from their site. So if they're getting rid of it for free and you're using it in your garden, it's a win-win.
So back to the lasagna, that was probably a bit of parmesan going in. What do you reckon, James?
I think so. We're getting close to the top.
We are getting close to the top. Why don't we put on another layer of, have we got some leaves?
We do. We raked up before.
I reckon we'll grab some leaves and we might grab, no, that's probably enough. Got some leaves. So again, Sarah raked these up for us today. And obviously there's some straw from the other parts of her garden that's blown off in the wind. Again, leaves at this time of year, autumn, there's plenty of leaves around. So that's from a locust tree, these ones, but it's another resource that otherwise would go in your green bin and be taken off your site. Use things in your garden. I reckon we'll do one more layer.
Beautiful.
Of the lasagna. And then we can get planting. So that's taken us about 10 minutes. Actually building is the fast part. It's collecting these materials. Sure, that takes a bit of time, but you know, Sarah's going to be the winner in this garden in about 3 months because this is going to be absolutely the best soil you can make. You will not get this by driving down to your local hardware and buying soil in a bag.
I guess in sourcing this material as well, it's not like I'd never go out and go, right, I'm going to get everything I need for my lasagna gardening today. Generally, you just get it when you get on the beach or you're driving past the cafe, having a coffee. You can get it as you go and just collect it and store it in your garden. Beautiful. Now, what's our last element to it, Ben?
Well, this is what I call, some people call it the brown gold. I'm just going to call it the gold. This is what, and Sarah's done a very, very good job. I'm impressed. This has been created in the compost. So we've got a composting system on site. Now, you might not, if you want to get going like this weekend, sure, you might have to get a little bit of soil to start. But we're not going to spread this over the whole bed. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. But when we're planting, our seedling doesn't need it to be spread all over. So we'll look at what we're going to plant first. What have we got? Okay, we've got some happy rich broccoli. I love it. Happy rich broccoli. It's a new variety that I'm not quite aware of, but that's okay. Broccoli in general, we want to plant about maybe 30 centimetres apart. If you've bought seedlings, and you're lucky enough to have bought seedlings at the moment, have a look at the directions on the back. We're going to be talking about that a bit more, but look at the spacing. It's very important. The other thing to think about in your garden bed is we don't have to fill this whole garden bed up with one plant. In fact, we want to have a diverse garden bed where you're picking lots of different things, even in small spaces. So in this example, the sun's north is about there. So if I was to plant something tall on that side, it would shade out this area. And the plants that are over here are going to have more issues. Whereas if I plant, say, broad beans up high here, it's shading the path and I can still plant things in front. So we might even put some broadies around the back here.
Beautiful.
And we might put these guys at the front, which aren't as tall as the broad beans. So when we're planting...
I think Sarah's actually got broad beans as well, which we can plant.
I've got some broadies in a little tin under there.
Unbelievable. Here's
some I prepared earlier.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Just a quick trip to the hardware store.
All right, well, let's plant the broadies first. So
how far do we want to plant the broadies apart?
Well, I think we can put it, so what I'm going to do is you can create little holes, probably 30 centimetres again. And I'm going to put a clump of soil in each one. Now this is just, you can see the colour of this. This is just amazing, beautiful, rich soil. And let's do 5. James, plant a couple as we go. The idea is, and you could put a seedling in there as well. Sorry, a seed, but Sarah's already done the work for us. So you can see the roots on this, you don't need to create a whole heap of soil. This compost has taken a lot of work. We don't want to waste it. So we only need to create a small area for which the broad bean can get a good start. So you pop it in, be quite firm. Voila. It was as easy as that.
Well, these are, happy, rich broad beans. So they're very happy already.
And you know what? Grab the red box. Look at this, an old chocolate box. Fantastic. This is even more important than chocolate. These are seeds that I saved from my garden. Sarah's the benefactor. You can, in this process, pop a seedling in. You cover it. There's another one. These are ones that were collected from the Geelong Organic Gardeners group. Amazing broad beans. So we're creating broad beans here that can grow up quite high, and you can create a trellis system for them. And then we're going to plant some broccoli in the front.
I'm going to pass that one too, Ben. To put it over
there. We've got another. Let's just pop it in there, just in case the other one doesn't grow up. Shouldn't waste seeds, especially at the moment. All right, so I don't want to put a plant right here. It's too close. So what we're going to do is stagger them, and we'll just plant a couple just to show. We'll do 3, Again, you can make a bit of a hole first. Maybe if you think it needs a bit more soil, go for it. But these are seeds that Sarah's grown from seedlings that Sarah's grown from seed. Again, pop them in, and you can stagger it. So we could have 3 of these broccolis that are growing here. Sprouting broccoli is a great one because you can just keep picking. It's another thing in small spaces, grow things where you can keep picking, like silver beets and, this time of year, tomatoes and chilies and things that keep giving and producing, as opposed to maybe only getting one crop.
The other thing to think about with planting is, so if we're planting things together, is companion planting, which we will cover more in later weeks. But thinking about what pests will come to these brassicas, you can probably see some cabbage moth flying around. They lay their eggs, and you get those green caterpillars, which are prolific at this time of year. So something which repels them to plant with these would be a great idea. Something like marigolds, or from the calendula family, or something like nasturtium somewhere else in your garden will actually attract them away from here. So we can think about sort of planting some flowers in your garden too, which also help pollinators too, so bees and other animals.
That's right. And even this chili here, again, is providing a function in the garden. Apart from picking, it's going to hopefully deter a few things around the garden. Just on that, James, have we got any coffee grounds left?
We do.
So a good little tip that I want to show you guys. Here we go. Got it. So I've done this for many years now. Coffee grounds, not right at the base of the plant, but just as a ring around your plant. Again, hopefully detracts from some of the insects that might, or bugs that might come and want to munch on your new seedlings.
So keeping in mind that coffee is quite acidic.
That's
as
right.
well. So you don't want to put too much, as Ben said, at the base because it will impact the soil and increase the acidity of the soil.
And the other thing you can do is use oil yogurt containers, cut the bottom off and gently place them in and sort of pop them into the soil so the wind doesn't blow them away. That provides a little secure home for the seed. That's worked for me in the past as well.
Yep. So it keeps the pests away, but it also provides heat, particularly this time of year. So it's like a little glasshouse effect around that plant.
And lastly, what I sometimes do, I've got some silver beet seeds here. Now you could do it also, so there's still quite a bit of space here, maybe not so much silver beet. I want to open that radish, mate. Social distancing, sorry. You can throw in seeds amongst this that are quick growing. Radishes you can get up within 8 weeks. So while these are still growing, you can use these spots in between. And again, the whole system starts working together. And if you've collected seed, that's just from a couple of plants at home. Often I'll just throw seed into the garden. You feel like a king, especially at the moment where it's so hard. And you know what? If they come up and they start crowding on, you can just pull them out and eat them a bit younger. It's not an issue at all.
So Ben, sourcing seeds, should we be going the organic range? Should we be going the heirloom range? Should we be just getting your standard seed? Probably at the moment you don't want to be too picky, but what's your suggestions there?
Well, they're pretty hard to get apparently at the moment, but I do tend to, when I'm looking for seeds, I'm looking for heirloom seeds. But I heard a great tip the other day. If you can't buy seeds, go to the supermarket and buy, for example, coriander. It's a great time to plant coriander. Just buy a packet of coriander. It's dried. It's ready to go. Instead of using it in your cooking, pop that in your garden. But generally, I like to use heirloom seeds. Otherwise, go to your local community gardens, great seed banks, and put it out there. There's some fantastic people putting seeds out on their verges at the moment. So now, the last step in the process. Now, I don't know if it took 15 minutes, but we've got to water our seedlings in. Now, Sarah had some sea salt, which again is going to give our plants a good, don't go too heavy. And now the sun's out, we've had rain. If we come back in a couple of, let's say months, maybe in the last episode, we'll show you this bed and we're going to plant the whole thing out afterwards. And you can just see how healthy and thriving this method could be. No dig gardening. I'd really encourage you to look up, go online, get inspired, dig in, get growing.
Thanks for attending today's workshop. We hope you learned a little bit and got something out of it. Be sure to tune in next week when we look at what to plant now and how to grow from seed. Until then, see you later.